Parshas Tzav. This week's Parsha introduces various korban offerings, Korban Olah, Korban Mincha, Korban Chatos, others. So the Olah is the first offering that's introduced in this week's Parsha, and the Olah is different from all the other offerings, all the other korbanos, in that the Olah is completely consumed on the altar and on the Mizbeach, and no one eats from it. Neither the Kohen nor the Balabayas, the person who brings the offering. And there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, that's the nature of the Korban. It's also a Korban Tzibur. It is a communal offering. And the only part that's not consumed in the flame of the altar is the skin, the hide, which the Kohen who offers it is entitled to keep. But other than that, he doesn't eat anything from it. The Chatos, on the other hand, the Kohen eats from, as well as the Asham. A Korban Shlomim is eaten both by the Kohen and by the owner, the Mevi, the person who brings the Korban. Okay, so the phrasing here is somewhat unusual, not entirely rare, but somewhat unusual. The verse says, this is Perek Vav, Pasuk Aleph says, a common introduction, Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe lemor. Hashem speaks to Moshe, saying, Tzav es Aharon v'espanav lemor, zos Toras ha'olah. Tzav is a command or instruct Aaron and his sons. Aaron was the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. His sons were Kohanim, were priests, and say, this is the Olah. And then it goes on to say, Olah al-Makdah, al-Mizbeach, this is the Korban Olah. Again, Olah means going up, which means that the entire thing, it implies that the entire thing is consumed. Some say it means like Elyon, which means the uppermost, the primary offering. And it stays on the Mizbeach, on the altar all night, and it is completely consumed. Okay. Now, this language of Tzav doesn't show up elsewhere in this Parsha, in this Torah reading in connection with introducing the Korbanos. So it has some significance because it's unusual, and an unusual word usually implies something that's different. So Rashi quotes the Torah Kohanim, and he says, Ein Tzav elo lashon zeruz. The word Tzav denotes some kind of zeruz. Zeruz means doing something quickly, something diligently. So being quick and diligent, some people say it means alacrity. So actually, tzav, which means command, connotes alacrity. Miyad uladoros, immediately and in perpetuity for the generations. Amar Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says the following, and there are those who say that the phrasing implies that Reb Shimon is not disagreeing with this statement, but is coming to add on to supplement the statement. There are others who say that he's disagreeing. What does Reb Shimon say? It's especially necessary for the Torah to give this encouragement to act, for the Kohanim to act with alacrity in a place where there is monetary loss. Kis literally means a deficit of the pocket, and that means that there's an economic loss. What exactly is this economic loss? Now, this statement is made at the beginning of the Torah Kohanim on this Parsha, but the Ramban says he takes issue with Rashi's ascribing this observation to this verse, because he says the Olah is a Korban Tzibur. The Olah is not paid for by the Kohanim. So what kind of chisaron kis is there? What kind of economic loss is there to a Kohen that he needs extra encouragement to do it properly? So he suggests that this observation that Rashi quotes really is more apt for the mincha, the meal offering that Aaron and his children offered. There are several other explanations suggesting a rationale for why Rashi might have considered this to be chisaron kis. The Hachayim suggests that there's a potential of a bottleneck because no other korbanos, no other offerings could be brought until the Olah was offered. And if there was delay in the Olah, it could delay the other korbanos, and it could lead to rendering them invalid. So there could be a consequence, not personally to the Kohen, but rather to the tzibur, to the Beis Hamikdash generally, to the temple, and so there was some kind of economic pressure, an understanding that a lot of money is dependent on my getting this right in the right time. He also suggests that there is part of the process is the burning of the wood at night in the Beis Hamikdash, even without any offerings, not specifically tied to the Olah per se, but the burning of the Olah, but rather the burning of the wood, even if there was no Korban on it, and that would be wasteful. And it might be distracting to a Kohen to see wood burning with no apparent utility. The majority, or at least the plurality of commentators explain that there is a type of chisaron kiss. It's not an out-of-pocket cost, but it could be more aptly described as an opportunity cost, which is the Olah is completely consumed. The Kohen eats nothing of it. All the other korbanos, all the other offerings of animals represent meals for the Kohen who brings them, and in some cases for others as well. And the chisaron kis here is that a Kohen who is doing this korban presumably is not doing another korban where he could eat. So he's got the short end of the stick. So he might, one might think, not be so quick to get it done. He's not having a steak or barbecue or some other gratifying meal. The Ramban does not address this at all. He just simply says there is no issue of chisaron kis for the korban olah. But many of the Mefarshim suggest that this is an opportunity cost. So what exactly is this ziruz, is this encouragement when the Torah says Tzav? So is it simply mentioning the word Tzav, and that by itself, since it's of record in the Torah, that in itself communicates a ziruz? And we know that there wasn't a rule until the Kohanim began serving, but there is a notion of Kohanim zrizim heim, that Kohanim act with alacrity. It could be that this was part of building up this culture of getting things done quickly, efficiently, and properly. One might also suggest, I don't see any basis for this other than speculation about what would encouragement be. What would this zeruz be if it's not simply the word tzav? And we might expect that I spoke about this with a number of people in the Beis Medrash, that Moshe tells Aaron, and Aaron tells his sons, or Moshe tells Aaron and his sons, and they pass on miyad uladoros, now and for generations, that there should be an awareness and a consciousness that you're not doing this for yourself. It's true that when you bring other korbanos, other offerings, you can partake of them, but you're doing this for Klal Yisrael. You're doing this for the Jewish people. You're doing this for the world. The Beis Hamikdash, the temple, represented a place of prayer for all nations. It was especially for the Jewish people, but not exclusively for the Jewish people. Ki beisi beis tefillah yikarei l'chol ha'amim. This, my house, will be called a house of prayer for all of the nations. So there's something much bigger than a barbecue going on here. There's something much bigger than an offering in which you have a little brekel, you have a little something to eat, but rather you're part of something bigger, much bigger, when you bring the korban olah, when you offer the korban. It's true about all the korbanos, but it's especially true about the korban olah, from which the Kohen doesn't personally benefit except for the high. So if we extrapolate the principle here, this notion of zeruz, of encouragement, that you're part of something bigger, I think it applies. We know Pesach is coming up and the Seder is coming up, and sometimes the focus on a good question, describing the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim to engage the children, which is absolutely necessary and halachically required. We have the 4 questions. We have a lot of demonstrations. In recent years, there's wearing of masks representing the 10 plagues, or little icons or plastic toys. And the Ramban talks about chot v'nes hamatzos, grabbing the matzos, and we hide the afikomen, and all kinds of things to stimulate the children. There might be an additional notion that could serve as zeruz, which is this Seder is part of something much bigger than just those who are sitting around the table. This is miyad uladoros. This is for now, but it's also for generations. All those little kids who are around the Seder table, they will, in Yirtzeh Hashem, in 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, from now will be leading their own Seder and will be inculcating their own children. And they're all part of the collective commemoration of our great redemption from Egypt and our being formed into a nation. It's our kickoff, and we celebrate it every year. And it's part of our heritage and part of our national consciousness. And this is Zeruz Miyad Uladoros. This is encouragement for now, and it's also encouragement for generations. And perhaps part of the message, especially to the children at the Seder, is this is not just for you now to understand. We are fortifying you. This is for you to be able to pass on to your children and to your grandchildren. Ad Bias HaGoel, until Mashiach arrives. Have a good Shabbos and a good Yom Tov.